The Joe Rogan Experience.
And I think childhood trauma. I think childhood trauma kind of can make you depressed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think that...
Especially abuse.
Yeah.
Abuse seems like the one that people have the hardest time shaking, because it's not that they weren't even... It wasn't even that they were ignored. It's that someone preyed on them.
Yeah.
And they have no self-worth. They're beaten. They have no self-worth.
And they know that the younger the abuse or the neglect happened, the more of an imprint it leaves, because your brain is forming. And
it's fascinating stuff, man.
But we have neuroplasticity, and you can go to therapy, and EDMR is something I'm doing, and it's incredible. It's the only thing I've ever done that sort of works.
What is that?
EDMR was invented by Francine Shapiro like in the 80s accidentally. She's a psychologist, and now it's become sort of the gold standard for trauma treatment and PTSD in like vet hospitals and stuff. And what it is it's it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And so
it involves moving your eyes in a very specific way while you process traumatic memories.
Yeah. I'm doing it now. It's crazy.
Oh my God, you're hacking your brain.
You hack your brain, and you get into your subconscious, like your REM sleep state, and then you reprocess the memories. And when you're there, you start having vivid memories, and then when you're done, memories start flying in out of nowhere.
Whoa, how did you find out about this? This is wild.
It was interesting. I was in LA, right? So I have early childhood trauma, and then I've had some traumatic things happen to me later in life. And then the panic attacks started after I got shot when I was in my early 20s. I didn't know what they were back then. Like, I just didn't know what they were. So I'd just be having these panic attacks in the train, just going like, what is happening to me? So I've been dealing with it for like 20 years, and it would go away for periods. I'd have great periods, and then it would come back. And after I had kids, I think I called you. I did. I spoke to you once, and you were very helpful. But after I had kids, it sort of triggered a lot of these feelings that would come up out of nowhere, and sadness. I'd be looking at my kids, and I'd get sad. I'd be playing with them. I'd get sad, and I didn't understand it. And then I'd be in a hotel room and on the road, and I'd just start like panicking, and I'd be like, "What is this?" And so I was talking to my friend, Tracy Carnazzo. She's a comic in New York. She's funny, and she's one of these Italian girls who's just got a guy for everything. She's just, you ask her anything, she's like, I know somebody. So she was like, how are you? And I just answered honestly. I was like, I did, and I gave her like a paragraph. And she was like, it sounds like you didn't feel safe as a kid. She was like, let me get you in touch with this person who I'm friends with who does EDMR. And then I got in touch with this therapist, and she's incredible. And I started the EDMR journey, and it's the only thing I've done. And EDMR has a beginning, middle, and end. It's not like, it's not like ad infinitum. It just goes on forever. It's like you're there to reprocess this trauma.
And so, do you do it at a specific place?
I do it Zoom. I love to Zoom.
You Zoom?
Yeah.
So you Zoom with someone who guides you through it? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
And you do it how often?
I'm doing it now twice a week. But you can do it once a week.
And how long is each session?
Hour. She'll go longer sometimes, though.
Wild.
Yeah.
So do you feel like the chemicals moving around in your brain while you're doing this?
Yeah. You do. And that's a big part of it, is identifying the trauma in the body and how it affects the body. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score by, I think his name is Bessel. He's a psychiatrist, and he's responsible for all these trauma centers all over the country. And
so this guy is doing it to this lady right now.
Yeah.
He's going back and forth with his fingers, and she's following his fingers. And so she's supposed to be thinking about traumatic memories.
So then he'll take her back through the first phase is like identifying the trauma. So it's a lot of talk therapy. So you kind of, talk a lot. And then the therapist gets the idea of what you need to go back and reprocess. And new things will come up when you go back, and then you'll reprocess it. It's not just hands. You can do. You can follow a ball. You can hold the buzzers in each hand. It's about stimulating both sides of your brain.
Yeah.
What's happening in mental health now is so fascinating, because when you parallel it with like what happened in medicine, right? Like we used to treat the symptom, right? So if someone had a fever, they treated the fever, but they didn't know what the cause was. So they'd put you in cold water or boiling water, whatever they did. And then they found out about viruses and bacteria, so they started treating the cause. Now in mental health, you're starting to see that revolution because of the advances in neuroscience, where they can look at the brain and they can actually see what parts are responsible for what, where trauma shows up in the brain. They just did a recent study. It was a big study about how traumatic memories don't come back as memories. They come back, they light up in the part of your brain as if it's happening now, which makes sense. We knew that because, when Vietnam vets start bugging out and they're in the supermarket or whatever, but they can actually see it now in the brain, that the brain is processing it as it's happening now. So, converging neuroscience and psychology and all the things that they've known from all these different advances, and it seems to be in a place now where trauma is becoming one of the things that they focus on the most, like early childhood trauma or traumatic events in war. Obviously, we know that's that's the specific cause of what is bothering those people, is what they've experienced. And so now they're targeting the trauma, but they have ways to treat the trauma with EMDR, with brain spotting, it's called, a whole bunch of these tactics.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating when you think of, I had this guy on the podcast yesterday, Joe Pyfer. He's a MMA fighter for the UFC. And he had a terrible childhood, terrible, fucking horrible beatings, just constant. It's just heartbreaking to hear the story. But it's just fascinating, as a human being, whoever you are, when you're listening to this right now, you are the accumulation of your processing of every experience you've ever had. As much as we like to claim autonomy and we think on our own, and we kind of do, and there's there's definitely chemical problems. There's definitely people that just have a genetic defect, something, just like some people have diseases of all sorts of other parts of their body. They get diseases in the brain. That's fucking for real, 100%. But you're basically just an end product of experiences and your interpretation of those experiences and the lessons and the way you've contextualized all those experiences, and they're all in your head, and that's your map of the world. That's your map of the world. So if you're in San Francisco, yay, we freed Palestine. Their map of the world is fucked. Their experiences, what's got them to 2024, January 18th, whatever it is this result sucks. This result sucks. This is terrible. You guys are out of your fucking mind. You're wasting your time. There's needles on your street. You guys are out of your fucking mind. What are you doing? This result sucks. But those people they could have been in fucking Wyoming, hardworking ranchers, the same human. Could have been a salt of the earth, fucking Kevin Costner, Yellowstone looking motherfucker. It could have been the same. It's just your experiences.
Yeah.
It's just what shapes you? What directions do you go in? When do you get pushed down? When do you get lifted up? Who gives you a hug? Who pushes you away?
Yeah.
And how does this play out?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know themselves, because you got to do all this work to know yourself, because your brain protects you in so many ways that you're unaware of.
Your brain will fuck
they
you
know
up.
in neuroscience, your brain usually, when it's healthy, works in concert and sends information to different parts of your brain to process it. But when you have trauma or a chemical problem or whatever it is, it doesn't work well. And in traumatic experiences, your neocortex shuts off and your limbic turns on, and there's a survival reason for that, right? So if you're in a moment of fight or flight, you don't want to start reasoning. You don't want to go you start philosophizing. You're just emotional. You're dealing with your survival reptile brain, and so it actually shuts off. So people who have panic and anxiety, it's hard to reason your way out of it because that part of your brain is shut down.